And too many times do we see money and numbers outweigh humanity, outweigh basic civility. And we're seeing it at my alma mater, at the University of Nebraska. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that was a segue. We are seeing women, young women, underage kids, these are kids, being not cared about, being treated as secondary to economic impact. Ladies and gentlemen, right now, there are students of all races, cultures, and creeds protesting on the streets of the University of Nebraska Lincoln's campus because yet again, a young lady, an underage young lady, was sexually assaulted in a frat house. And ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, and maybe you don't know, I went to the University of Nebraska. I was a minority who went to the University of Nebraska and who got to see just how nasty an establishment is like that. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, it's nasty. And I'm not just saying it's just University of Nebraska. I'm sure it's probably all over the world. It would suck if it's all over the world, but nothing shows me that. Nothing that we've seen in this world shows me that this is like a finite situation. Now, recently, a 17-year-old young lady accused a young frat boy at the University of Nebraska of rape. Why is it cause for people to be out on the streets protesting? Why does that matter? This just happened once, right? No. Greek Row in general at the University of Nebraska is known for its constant sexual assault cases. But nothing has ever been done as far as I've known. When I was there for 4 years, I never saw a white frat house get suspended. I never saw a white frat house be reprimanded. Some of the most wild things these white people would do, racist things, drawing the N-word on their buildings. Nothing happened to these people ever. And the same would go with sexual assault cases with these campuses. And I don't know if it's because a lot of the police officers are ex-frat boys, which they are. I don't know if it's because some of these frat members have so much money tied into the institution that any type of rape accusation would cause them to lose millions. I'm sure of it. Maybe, who knows what it is? Who knows why people do shitty things? But let me tell you more about what happened. This 17-year-old girl told officers that she and an 18-year-old acquaintance had gone to this frat house. The alleged assault occurred after the acquaintance left, so her friend left her there, and probably thinking she knows this guy that she's safe, she was sexually assaulted when she was left alone. Now, granted, ladies and gentlemen, campus just opened up Monday. So this is less than a week's time that a sexual assault case has been put out on the University of Nebraska. So this fraternity is the University of Nebraska Lincoln's chapter of Phi Gamma Delta fraternity. They're commonly known as Fiji and has a long history of inappropriate conduct, including sexual harassment. Now, I will say that since this rape allegation became like national news, this Fiji fraternity has been suspended. Now, you might say, okay, well, there's something. They got suspended. There's action right there. But let me tell you a little something about somebody that was in a fraternity on this campus. Me, I'm in a historically black fraternity, the greatest fraternity in the world, Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Shout out to Phi Beta Sigma. And I'll tell you right now, we didn't have much representation at all on that campus. Not one NPHC organization is on this campus. They don't have a house, a statue, a banner, nothing. Where there's no representation on that campus. But what there is there's this long street called Greek Row. And on each side are their fraternity and sorority houses. And of course, they're all predominantly white. Now, one thing you know as a black student there, unless you have like mad white roommates or you're from Nebraska and you knew somebody that knew somebody, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be welcomed into this fraternity or sorority. A lot of times they'd have their like one token person just to say they had one. But we all knew, especially as a black man, we all knew to stay away from Greek Row, especially at night when they drinking, because we're not going to be welcome in their parties. We're not allowed to be around they women. And they'll tell you straight up, these white boys would come to you straight up, deep of course, 10, 12 deep, and say, hey man, you got to get out of here. We ain't got enough women here for y'all. That's the energy on Greek Row, and everybody knows this, right? Everybody knows this. And also, it's commonly known that Greek Row is not a safe place to be a young lady. Now, I know skeptics may ask, well, why do these women continue to go to these frat houses, blah, blah, blah. You're an idiot if you ask that. Because we know what culture and society is like. We know what peer pressure is like. We know when you're a young person, or whether it's a young lady or a young man, you're not always going to make the best decisions. That's what being a young college student is about, right? But people will ask that, like, oh, well, they shouldn't be there anyway if they're in danger, blah, blah. No, something should be done. But for years and years and years, nothing was done. People older than me, people younger than me, people the same age as me. I know so many young women that have horror stories from fraternities up and down Greek Row. But they don't say anything because they feel their voices won't be heard. Because time and time again, the young ladies that did say something, they got kicked out of their own sororities. They got shunned. They weren't allowed to come to parties anymore. And nothing happened to the fraternities. So if this is decades of young ladies' voices not being heard, you'll know these young ladies are getting told during their rush periods, during their times of joining these organizations, like, hey, man, you better be careful. If something happens to you, you better not say nothing. And that's the conversation. Because there's so much to lose. Status, friendships, parties, all these things that as young men and women we think are important. So, of course, these young women didn't know what to do. But let me tell you, it's something that is so bad. People have finally said they have had enough and they are protesting. Let me tell y'all, young women have died on Greek Row. Unexplainably. Oh, they were overly drunk. Oh, they were too drunk. But then when you look into the actual reports, foul play seems to always be in the mix when it involves these fraternities. And of course, not every frat boy is bad. Of course, not every white fraternity is bad. Not every black fraternity is great. Everybody, every chapter, there's chapters all over the world. And they all represent their own body of people, their own student body. So let me not get misconstrued and make it sound like I just think every frat boy in the world's a rapist. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying is there was a common problem on this university's campus. And once again, these children and their safety was pushed aside because of money, because of relationships, because nobody wants to put Fiji in a bad light. They got donors out the ass. Millions of dollars comes from this frat house. We can't make them seem like they don't care about women's safety. We can't do that. So let's not say anything. Now, I know I'm talking good game. Like, Brian, how do you know? How do you know that all of this takes place at the University of Nebraska? Outside of the fact that there's people on the streets right now protesting. Outside of that, outside of the obvious. Well, as a young journalist student, one of the classes that was required for me to take was Sociology of Crime. And Sociology of Crime was a very, very interesting class. And I wasn't very huge on my, college classes. I didn't really pay attention a lot. But in this class was just a little different because this class broke down why criminals do the things they do. And it's not just like your everyday criminal. It's not like you're just your robber or your car thief. This is white collar crimes. This is why people in the stock market, make corporate crimes, things like that. We were just learning about the way that these criminals think. And fortunately enough, my teacher was a woman. And I believe she was also from Nebraska, and I also believe she went to the University of Nebraska. And for a whole week, our lessons were about rape culture in America. Why rapists do what they do. Why women can be found in situations where they ended up getting assaulted by somebody that they trusted or cared about. And also why rape is one of those accusations that seems to be so hard to convict people, to find people that are guilty, especially on the University of Nebraska campus. This is things she was teaching us. So one day we were in class and, we all had our computers out And she said, I want you guys to pull up this website. Now, I don't remember the website. This was years ago. But it was a crime tracker website that tells you about crime going on, whether it's in your state, whether it's in your city, whether it's in another city. It will show you this map, and then little red flags and little colorful different things would appear on this map as indicators of crime that had happened. And this professor said, I want you guys to put in the University of Nebraska. I don't even think it was University of Nebraska. I think it was actually streets. So from this street to this street, I want you to look up sexual assault crimes, is what the teacher told us. And it was within the month. We put it in the computer, this street to this street. And this happened to be Greek Row. A lot of us didn't realize at the time because, we barely paid attention. We trying to get to the info. We trying to get to the data. But she puts in the street to start Greek Row and then the street to end it. So this is all on campus, mind you. So this is basically the University of Nebraska in all of their sexual assault crimes, right? And this isn't just Greek Row at all. It's showing the entire area. So the stadium, the dorm rooms, all of these different things. So we type in, sexual assault cases, and it takes a while to load. And then, slowly, sure, all of our internet was working faster than the others. Slowly, everybody started to sigh, there was gasps everywhere. The amount of red flags, because the red flag indicated that there was a police report and that police had to come out or that police were contacted. The amount of red flags that appeared on that Greek Row street from just a month. It wasn't just alarming, it was sickening. It was hundreds every week. Dozens of young ladies, especially underage ladies, were reporting to police that they had been sexually assaulted, roofied, raped, hurt, harmed within these frat houses. And this was common knowledge that we could access just as students, that my professor knew. She knew so well it was in her curriculum. She had no idea if that week those numbers were going to be high. Every year, she probably does this same spiel with her students. And she knew that when we looked at those numbers, they would be staggering enough to make us all gasp. And then she asked us, how many of these cases do you think are reported? You guys will all be in news one day. You guys will all be journalists one day. How many of these cases do you think make it to the desk of a producer, of an assignment editor? And we all knew the answer because we all follow the news. We all have news updates because we're journalists. We're locked in. This is our job right now. We're in school. We have to stay locked in. And somebody raised their hand and said, none. None of us knew. We're the journalist majors on this campus. We are more tapped in than most people. We're paying attention because we have to. And us as students had no idea this was going on our campus. Or at least not to the extent. Because like I said, we all had heard stories. We all had seen things. We all had known somebody that, had accusations. But accusations are what they are, right? You never really know what's true or what's not. Especially when it comes to rape. We seem to make all kinds of excuses for people that get accused of rape. But ladies and gentlemen, nothing had been done for these girls. And this was back in 2012, 2013. We almost in 2022, ladies and gentlemen. And the same things are going on. Which means that in that period of time, and more than likely before as well, children were not being protected. And it's nasty. It's nasty that this continues to happen in our society. We've heard of the Weinsteins. We've heard of the Epsteins. We've heard of the human trafficking amongst kids around this world. And it makes you ask, what can we do to protect our children, the minorities in this country, the disenfranchised people, the people without money? Because clearly money is the driving force in all of this, right? Why else would an institution turn a blind eye to rape? For years, why would they do this? This is their alumni, their future alumni, right? Why would they allow their students to be put in harm? I think we can always attribute things back to money, back to politics, back to relationships. And it's sad. And it's so sad. And all we can do is try to listen and hear these young ladies' stories. And some of these young men's stories too, right? Because it's not just the single gender thing when it comes to like rape and sexual assault. It happens to everybody. But also what we can do is we can support. We can sign petitions. And ladies and gentlemen, there actually is a petition to end this Fiji fraternity's time at the campus of University of Nebraska. Like I said, this is not their first issue. So if you want to support and sign this petition, and the petition is to remove Fiji from the campus of the University of Nebraska. And you might not ever step foot in Nebraska. You might not ever know anybody that went to Nebraska. But let me tell you guys, somebody's daughter, somebody's niece, somebody's sister, somebody's future mother could be in danger. So if you're listening right now, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to go to @shutdownfiji. That's all one word, no underscores, on Instagram. Go to @shutdownfiji. There is a link on their bio. This is on their Instagram. There's a link in their bio @shutdownfiji. And it's to ban Fiji forever on the campus of University of Nebraska. Right now, it has over 300,000 signatures. 300,000. How many of those 300,000 do you think are young women that were assaulted or raped on that campus? It could be teachers. It could be older women that never felt comfortable saying what happened. 300,000. Clearly there is something wrong. So please, ladies and gentlemen, go to @shutdownfiji on Instagram and click the link in their bio and just sign the petition. It takes no time at all. You don't have to donate money. You don't have to donate anything. But just, I don't know if this kind of stuff helps, but if it does, you could really help save some young ladies and some young men and their futures, because I can't even imagine the trauma that comes with dealing with things like that, especially an institution that you chose to go to. You're there to learn. You're there to have a great time. You're there to experience life. And you can't even feel safe. We've talked about it before, how women and their safety is just so different from men's. Like I said, I can go to the grocery store and not have to look over my shoulder every 5 seconds. Women can't do that, and to me, that's a problem. So please go to @shutdownfiji on Instagram. Go to the link in their bio and sign the petition. And maybe, just maybe, we can make a change. We can make a difference, and maybe we can save some lives. Ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 30. Episode 30 of the Out of Character podcast. As always, I am your host, Brian Colbert. My friends call me BC. You can call me BC too if you're listening. If you're listening, we appreciate you for listening.
You're sitting on the couch, keep procrastinating over and over. Why are you making it complicated? It's easy.